going to, all right, we are recording. People are going to be popping in soon.
Excellent.
Yeah, here comes some peeps. So everybody, welcome. If you're just popping in, just take a virtual seat and we'll get started. Usually wait like, I don't know, 30 seconds. I don't know what the delay is on Zoom's.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's like, if this is a purposeful delay, but
They
that's
don't have
pretty good.
to accept, right? They just click the link and join.
Yeah, they just click the link and join. Yeah.
Cool.
You and I had a slightly different, more complicated route, but
Yeah.
because we're
Ooh, that's a
we're
lot of
in
people.
we're in yeah, yeah. No, this is good. This is great. Yes, I should mention, Elvis, that this lecture series is also part of a class. I think I told you this, but so
Yeah,
the
yeah.
part of their class session is like popping into this lecture for an hour and to hear all kinds of different uh, facets of what they happen to be
hmm
studying. Welcome, everybody. We're at like 15 people. I feel like that's a really good number.
Pretty good.
So yeah, it's pretty good. I'm gonna get started. So welcome everybody to the first installment of the spring 2024 Sarah Little Turnbull Visiting Designer Speaker Series. This is also the last semester we're doing this, sadly, but it's been an amazing. I was trying to tell Elvis how many lectures we've had, and it's like just south of 50. It's like it's a lot. So it's a lot. So it's been amazing. I just want to thank before I launch everything into play. I just want to thank Dorothy Dunn at the Turnbull Foundation for believing in us and coming to our lectures and just being so supportive. I'll also thank Bart Bland, the director of the Lehman College Art Gallery. He's been helping administer this whole thing this entire time behind the scenes. Deborah Gazinski, Ashley Lum, all people in the art gallery that make all this stuff work. You need support to do this kind of thing. It's not just two people talking on a Zoom call, right? It's much bigger than that. So this semester, I'm just going to talk about the theme that we're going to be talking about this semester. We're going to be diving into the theme of packaging design or package design. This is an area where art, science, and innovation intersect to create impactful experiences for consumers. Package design not only shapes consumer perceptions and purchasing decisions, but it's also a pretty critical element in the ongoing climate change discussion, right? Intersecting with the realm of sustainable design, the supply chain, the transport of goods. It's all sort of like factors into this, not just what things look like on the shelf, right? When we see them as consumers. Throughout the series, we're going to explore the importance of packaging and enhancing brand identity, conveying value, and even eliciting emotional responses through the unboxing experience. That's what we're going to talk about today. And specifically, we're delighted to introduce and have with us Elvis Hsiao. Elvis is not only a talented UX designer, he's based in Vancouver, British Columbia. He's also a design writer, and he has a passion for design and extends not just beyond just aesthetics. He sees design as a pretty powerful tool for shaping a better, brighter future. So he's right at home here at Lehman. His dedication lies in harnessing the power of creativity to create and make a tangible difference in the world, whether it's through creating more sustainable solutions, fostering inclusivity, or just driving positive change. Elvis's collaborative spirit and forward-thinking approach have made him a sought-after partner for companies and organizations that share his vision of design as a force for good. And beyond the world of design, Elvis finds inspiration in the great outdoors, where he enjoys playing sports and exploring the wilderness. And I know that Vancouver has some sports, some really beautiful wilderness. And
Oh yeah.
someday I'll get there. We're thrilled to have him with us today and to share his insights and experience in the realm of package design. So please, everybody, help me give a warm welcome to Elvis Hsiao. Elvis, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. This is so awesome, and we are really lucky to have you. Just one last thing before I hand it off to Elvis.
hmm
This is a public lecture. There are also students here for this class, a design class dealing with package design. Everybody is pleased. We would love to have some questions from you during the course of the lecture. There's a little button at the bottom of the Zoom window called says Q&A. just you can tap on that and enter a question at any time, and I'll monitor that over the course of the lecture and possibly throw one of these questions at Elvis here. So, all right, Elvis, take it away. Show us.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the intro, David.
Mm-hmm.
And very happy to be here. This is actually my first time doing a lecture like this. So
Okay.
let's uh let's hope everybody takes something home this time. Okay.
Oh,
So
for sure. Yeah.
let's talk about unboxing as an experience. So what is unboxing? I'm sure a lot of people know what this is. Well, according to the dictionary, it is an act of instance of removing a newly purchased product from its packaging and examining its features, typically when filmed and shared on social media sites. So why does this matter? Well, the unboxing phenomenon, um, which gained significant traction in the mid 2000s with the rise
Mm-hmm.
of social media platforms such as YouTube.
Yeah.
The understanding that packaging can influence customers' perceptions, they date way further back in the 1990s with the growth of consumerism and the increase in competition in retail. So brands start to notice this. So they start shifting packaging design away from purely utilitarian designs, just as a way to stand out in the shelves. So then the unboxing phenomenon was it was a pivotal factor in broadening the understanding of the overall user experience
Mm-hmm.
just beyond the store interaction. So first impressions of products, their usability, customer service experience, store experience, unboxing experience, it can leave a long-lasting impact that's very hard to change in the future.
Yeah.
So when we watch these videos, like unboxing videos, we actually become active participants, right? We share the excitement, the learning about the product as if like they were in our own hands. So this is
Mm-hmm.
crucial because viewers are potential users and consumers. They're reaching purchasing decisions based on what they experience from these videos. Um, so like you could imagine, like during Christmas, you want to buy someone this gift. You don't know what they want to, you don't know what they like, right? So then you look up some unboxing videos to get inspiration from creators, and then hopefully you land on something that you like, and then you go to the store to make that purchase. So it's essentially like a prelude to ownership, where the visual and narrative elements of the video kind of fill the gap between curiosity and familiarity. So this is further enforced by the graph provided by Google, where unboxing videos are mostly watched during the holiday seasons. So there's actually a few reasons why we find unboxing videos to be a phenomenon, right? As humans, it's our natural tendency to just love surprises because unboxing taps
Mm-hmm.
into our intrinsic love for the unexpected. So I guess the process of revealing a product kind of piece by piece plays into the human reward system. So say when someone peels back layers to discover what's inside, they get a release of dopamine, which makes us feel good. So it's probably also a good assumption to make about why we gift wrap gifts. So the person doing the unboxing, they get to experience the direct tactile sensations, and then they get the immediate reward of discovery and active participation, which engages in all the senses with the product. And then from the viewer's side, they actually do experience something a little bit different. They get to enjoy the excitement and the anticipation, like the entire build-up, although they can skip straight to the end if they really wanted to. Along with that, they get product knowledge, they feel a sense of community, um, but the main difference is they don't have the financial commitment of making that purchase. So what are some broader social implications of this? Well, the data shows that power of well-executed unboxing experiences can lead to improved overall user experiences and by default improved conversion rates. But what implications might there be for consumers? And are companies now obligated to use expensive materials to make their unboxing experiences akin to luxury brands? Well, the experience economy is a concept popularized by Joseph Pine and James Gilmore, where business they create memorable events for their customers, and the memory of the event itself becomes the product. So then the value is placed on the personal and emotional connection that the experience fosters rather than on the physical product alone. So you can see with the coffee example, coffee is can't be considered a commodity. Um, I don't know in the States there might be like a few different tiers, but I'm sure coffee's all the same, right?
Oh yeah. Well, there's bad coffee and then there's good coffee beans, but it's definitely a commodity around the world, right? I mean, it's sought after,
Yeah, like
especially by me in the
Starbucks.
morning.
Oh,
Yeah, like Starbucks.
oh, me too.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh yeah, yeah,
we're all agencies of capitalism.
yeah, yeah. Well, there
Um,
you go.
so a thoughtfully designed package can transform the act of opening a product into a memorable event, which then deepens consumers' engagement with the brand. So then moving on to the different types of packaging. In the beginning of the slide deck, I kind of mentioned like the utilitarian packaging designs almost. However, there's actually a few more types of design philosophies that I would kind of like to expand into. The first one is utilitarian packaging. So the primary goal of this philosophy is to prioritize functional reform. So this philosophy is probably not ideal for all applications. Like imagine something like the picture showing up at your doorstep. Um, Definitely looks a little bit suspect. Does not leave a very good impression, I would
It's
say,
it's a
unless you
bad
just get
look.
it.
It's a bad
Yes.
look. Yeah.
That would not pass through customs for sure.
No, no, no.
So, it does not tell me about the contents, nor does it tell me any story behind it. So it's hard to attach a value to something like that. So then the question is like, how might this affect user experience if it was a consumer-facing product, right? So
Mm,
such packaging, it does not really inspire the same initial emotional response as a branded package. Now, another type of packaging, which is disposable packaging. It is somewhat similar to utilitarian packaging, but it's essentially designed for single use only. So it's very co common in consumer culture, especially for products where convenience is emphasized. Disposable packaging is often criticized for its environmental impact because it comes with a long list of implications. It can sometimes offer a complex, non-sustainable solution that prioritizes short-term convenience over long-term use. So examples of this would be like, I don't know, like baseball cards, hockey cards. Once you rip that open, it's gone, right?
mm,
It could be plastic wraps or films that cover devices, accessories. So basically, they protect the product until it reaches the consumer, and then they're done for.
yeah. This is big in the state. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Canada. And I did want to ask you about the differences in what's legal in Canada versus the US. Like, are there laws, policies about packaging? But in the US, a lot of our food, fresh food, like or it's supposed to be vegetables, fresh food, comes to us like wrapped in plastic. So it's
Oh,
like, yeah, all the time. And I know like you can go to like organic markets, you can go to like Whole Foods we have, which is like a giant, premium
hmm.
store. Um, where you won't find that. You'll just find fresh vegetables on top of each other. But most places they come pre-wrapped, individually wrapped in, packages. And they don't come from local areas. They come from perhaps different countries sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's a little
There's a
different.
few things that I mean, I think like maybe like cucumbers or something. They might be individually
Cucumbers,
wrapped or
cucumbers, yeah. And
shrooms.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there's like a
frustrating.
few things. Yeah.
It's frustrating because like it for me, not to derail too much from where you're going, but for me, like that's grosser to like look at a cucumber in a plastic bag or a plastic encasement
Yeah.
is kind of gross to me. It's not, it does the opposite of what you think a package would or supposed to do, which is enhance the user experience. But
Yeah.
I suppose there's other reasons. But anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
No, that's all good. Fair question. That got me thinking.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I guess now we have a more specific case study with Apple's packaging. Um, so moving on to like a more specific case study. So
yeah.
we're going to be talking about like the Apple Vision Pro. and how Apple's packaging design combines like all the different philosophies and then makes it aesthetic, minimalist, and then creating this very good unboxing experience. So
Yeah.
many of you guys probably know who this is or not, Marquez Brownlee. He is a YouTuber that does a lot of these tech unboxing videos and reviews. So here he received the package, which is the Apple Vision Pro. So that's how it showed up at his doorstep. You get a plain cardboard box. And once he takes the three separate pieces out of the box, you can see kind of like the cohesive design language and the branding. Very plain, very minimalistic. Out of the three items, only one of them has branding on it. And here you can see him remove the cover from the main package. So a key characteristic that makes Apple's packaging stand out is the natural air friction release with the boxes. So you can see how it's placed on the table and it's lifted up kind of like a museum piece. And then it reveals like the centerpiece of the package, which kind of looks like a Vision Pro on a podium. And then under that Vision Pro, once you remove that, you would get a series of manuals that are arranged based on hierarchy. So the most important stuff will be on the top, so something that you would see first. And then after you remove those, you get access to the accessories, which is tucked in after. And then after that, that is the Vision Pro travel case, which is also very consistent and very cohesive with the rest of the unboxing experience. Um, the whole video is like 20 minutes, so I didn't want to like put it on there. So if you guys want to watch it, you can just search it up. Um, yeah, so what are the key characteristics of Apple's packaging? Well, it's a simple design, it's clean, uncluttered, minimal plastics. So it's an eco-friendly move that kind of aligns with global sustainability trends. Although early on in I believe in like 2000, before 2010s, when the iPod touches were still relevant,
Mm.
they had plastic cases to stand out from
Yep.
the competitors. Um, they've kind of taken that philosophy over to a more sustainable approach, where it's still like a museum piece, but now it's more environmentally friendly with paper.
Yeah.
Um, Another characteristic with Apple packaging is that it is intuitive to unbox. Um, so then now here's the bigger question. If you search on Google, why do people save their empty Apple boxes? Well, you'll find many, many websites where people share their own stories as to why they save their boxes. And then this is where I did some of the research and published an article on the UX Collective. So I guess there's so much anecdotal evidence that people keep their empty Apple boxes around. So it meant that is something that is worth exploring. So the question is like, why do people save their empty Apple boxes? And
Mm.
I alone also save my empty Apple boxes. So
But like I do too, and I'm just wondering if you have what's your reason, like personal reason for it?
personal reason, uh,
Yeah.
if I had to be brutally honest, it's literally because I don't know how to throw this away.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a really great answer
How do you fold
because
this?
yeah, it's like how do you and it's also like what does it mean to it's like throwing something away is kind of part of the catharsis of packaging, right?
Yeah.
You remove it and it was beautiful for a second and you get the dopamine rush. And then throwing it away, in other words, disposing of stuff, it has its own dopamine rush, right? Because you're completing the narrative in a way. So with
Yeah.
Apple boxes, it's almost kind of frustrating because like you don't get that satisfaction and it doesn't look like something you'd want to throw away, right?
Yeah,
It
it's
does
it's
like how do
sending a
you
little
throw
bit.
away something?
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's sending a little bit of like mixed signals because like the quality of this box is like really, really good. Like,
Yeah, thick.
yeah, and so when you compare this to like a cereal box, like
It's a keeper. It's
yeah,
like it's
it's
like it's and yeah, okay. I think that's a good answer though. I
it's a
really
nice
do.
box.
Yeah, it is a beautiful box. There are beautiful boxes.
Yeah. Um, well, yeah, so. there's a lot of reasons why people might want to keep their Apple boxes. Some people see it through their, utilitarian purposes. Not everyone see the Apple box as like an extension of their social and cultural values. Instead, they just see them for what it is. So maybe someone,
Yeah,
sees the secondary market. They want to make a few bucks by selling their boxes. Sure, they might keep it.
yeah,
And then, boxes, they often contain like device specific information. Like, I mean, I don't want to dox myself, but like there's like serial numbers.
right.
Um,
Quick, get a
you know,
screen grab.
let me attach my credit card number too.
Yeah,
Um, it could be used for, warranty, repairing
yeah,
purposes. It's easy to get to if you need to identify like the model of, the phone you have, if you don't know. Or maybe
yeah.
you want to re-gift it to someone else, and then this might just be the perfect box because it fits.
Yeah, Alberto here has a Q and A. It's really more of
Yeah.
a comment that I think is kind of interesting. It says, I'd say more so because of the cost. So a combination of both cost and experience, right? So it's interesting, and I kind of agree that Apple products are so expensive, right? They're 30%, 40% more than the next best competitor, right?
Hmm.
So it's like you spend all this money, you have a significant investment in the ecosystem, the Apple ecosystem. That makes it harder to throw out the box too, because it's like you've engaged in this. You're now in the world. You're in the Apple universe now, and I
Yeah.
feel like throwing any part of that out feels like a waste. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
It's kind
Okay.
of like I guess it's kind of like the sunken cost fallacy, right? If you spend
Yeah.
a
Tell us
thousand
about
bucks on the
that.
phone,
Yeah.
well, it's like you spend $1,000 on the phone, right? And then you have all these, accessories, manuals, you get a sticker or two,
Yeah.
and then, this the box once it gets to your house, it doesn't serve any like more value to you. But you feel
Right.
bad throwing away because you've already spent $1,000 on it anyway. Might as well
Exactly.
keep it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So then perceived
Yep.
value goes up and all that.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Interesting.
yeah. So then Apple boxes, like I mentioned before, they are very unintuitive to throw. So,
Hmm.
so the company's boxes, they're so well crafted that throwing away feels counterintuitive. So why might that be? Well, there's no creases, there's no tabs. Apple boxes typically don't feature tabs or create the indication where you might tear to start to dismantle the box. They
Hmm.
use very good quality materials that are very, very sturdy. So it does not give the impression that it is something that is single use,
Yeah.
other than maybe the wrapping that was inside. Um, so then we associate the material with value and
Yep.
permanence, right? Which
Yep.
which causes us to hesitate to consider them as disposable. And then they also don't fold.
Right.
That's a big one. Um,
Yeah. That is a big one.
if you don't fold, they kind of,
Y-
take up a lot of
Yeah.
space in the garbage.
Yeah. Like you can't crumple
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
I've tried. So,
I've tried to. I tried standing on it. Unfortunately, I was unsuccessful. Um, and then we can compare this with food boxes, like I mentioned before. Cereal boxes. So Apple boxes, it's kind of like a very harsh contrast. Apple boxes are very sturdy. They're very seamless, and they do not immediately suggest disposability. So then there's like a lack of affordances, visual cues
yeah.
that indicate the box can be easily disassembled or recycled. This design choice by Apple could lead to a form of cognitive dissonance, where the action of throwing away something that appears valuable is in conflict with the habitual behavior of disposing packaging. Like,
Yeah.
like I guess in Canada, like they kind of teach you like, oh, you should flatten your boxes before you put them in the recycling or something like that, just
Yeah.
to save space, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we do, like in the picture, you flatten it, all that. So on the
Yeah.
other hand, food boxes, they're typically designed with disposability in mind. So they often have these perforations, clear folding lines. They use very, very um, low strength glue, I guess, like weak glue.
Hmm. Yep.
So then it kind of fits into like a learned behavior pattern where flattening and recycling are intuitive actions. So then the contrast kind of illustrates like the conversation about packaging in the experience economy. So
I think
Apple's approach leads towards creating a lasting impression, but it kind of affects consumer habits around disposal and recycling.
mm,
Yeah.
it's
Were you saying
something,
something?
something, yeah, because there's another sort of, it's not a cognitive dissonance that I'm thinking of. It's more like a contradiction, which is that cereal boxes are very disposable, right? You can easily crumple them. You can you're breaking them apart. I mean, you're supposed
Hmm.
to per the
Yeah.
social contract, right?
Yeah.
So that they're recycled and but cereal boxes are actually useful because they hold the product the entirety of the time it's in your house. And you it's a pouring device, it's a storage
Mm.
device. It is actually like a lot more useful than Apple boxes, which have no use other than getting it to your place where you unbox it, right? So it's like
Hmm.
Apple boxes have no use, but they're made as if they're non-disposable. Cereal boxes have a lot of use, and they're made to be disposable. And I just find that I never thought about that until now. I find that kind of strange, and maybe that's something having to do with food versus electronics and perceived value. But I just kind of find that interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah, it's weird.
like something we, like cereal boxes, like I don't know, like cookies,
Yeah,
crackers, chocolate, all that stuff.
yeah,
Things that we encounter every like on a daily basis, right? So we're kind of used to, you know, using it and disposing it, and then that's the end of story, right? And then you
yeah,
go to the store, you repeat the process again. But I guess
yeah.
it's almost like a cognitive dissonance in a way that this itself is also cardboard, right?
Hmm.
But the food boxes are also cardboard. So shouldn't all cardboard be recycled the same way,
Yeah,
right? So
right.
then that kind of messes people up a little bit sometimes. They're like, oh, okay, well, if all cardboard is the same way, then maybe I should dispose it the same way. But this does not
Yeah,
have the characteristics as
no,
food boxes.
no.
So then, uh-oh, looks like I have to keep it.
Yeah, that's kind of, I think you're right. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. So now I guess what I have to talk about now is affordances in visual cues.
Yeah.
I briefly mentioned this before. It's like Apple's packaging, they kind of like influence our interactions with the product. They're made of really high quality materials. They
Yeah.
create like an expectation for longevity and value,
Hmm.
and it doesn't have the obvious tabs, creases, that's associated with disposable packaging means. So then I guess like, you know, we know that packaging in general is meant to be discarded, but the
Yeah.
design of Apple boxes, they don't really communicate this across, even though on the boxes they kind of have like, it kind of tells you to recycle.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's kind of ironic, but
A little bit. Yeah.
like they tell you to recycle, but they kind of don't want you to.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but the,
Mixed messages.
yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
bit confusing. So then this kind of like brings us like to this question, right? Like how can packaging design kind of like, balance the creation of premium experience with responsibility of sustainability?
Hmm.
And also like how can we, design to have like the correct recycling behavior? Because this showing that this is recyclable and giving visual cues and hints that it's not to be disposed is kind of counterintuitive almost, I would
Yeah.
say. It's a hot
Yeah.
take.
It's a hot take. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so then there are also like social implications that comes with it, with any packaging design. So there's many reasons why someone might hang on to their empty Apple boxes. For the most part, the act of keeping Apple boxes kind of reflects the consumerism trends, where
Hmm.
packaging is part of the product appeal and the overall experience. So then consumers can, they often view the boxes as like an extension of their personal and professional identity, which is tied to the ownership of Apple products.
Yeah.
So I guess like this might be like a very big generalization, but a lot of people that purchase luxury items, like Louis
Hmm.
Vuitton, Gucci, all that stuff, like
Yeah,
surely they don't just throw away the boxes and all the covers, right?
right.
They
I
want
can,
they want to they want to keep it there, and then when people come over, they want to show them, right?
yeah.
So then
I,
just by keeping, sorry, you were saying,
well, I was gonna say I can attest to that from personal experience, having
oh yeah.
purchased I have a wife and she demands certain luxury items from time to time, and we have one of those Louis Vuitton bags somewhere in our basement, just chilling, actually proximal to the Apple boxes as it happens. So funny you mentioned that.
Yeah. Well, by keeping the boxes, consumers are just they're not just holding on to like a functional item for practical reasons. They're kind of like also preserving a piece of the overall experience.
Yeah.
So this kind of behavior kind of illustrates how consumerism has evolved to include branding, packaging as its overall value proposition. Now, with the, quote unquote unintuitive disposal design of Apple boxes, how might this contribute to overall environmental impact?
Mm.
And on a deeper level, how might this perceived value contribute to economic exclusivity? Food for thought.
Yeah, well, it's kind
Uh,
of the point in some ways, I
yeah,
think.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so Apple's premium packaging, it's very aesthetic, very pleasing, very engaging. It kind of presents like an environmental paradox, right? Its durable design, quality materials, they don't naturally suggest that it's disposable, right? It could potentially lead to, less immediate waste, but also create a challenge for intuitive end-of-life disposal. Um, so this kind of leads us to another critical question. So how do companies like Apple reconcile the desire to create premium unboxing experiences with the urgent need for environmental sustainability? And equally important, what role do we as consumers play in this ecosystem?
Mm.
Um, Food for thought again. But
No,
that,
that's a
yeah,
big question.
huge question.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings me to almost the end of the presentation. So there's
Okay.
just a few takeaways.
Yeah.
Unboxing can become a meaningful ritual that can define first impressions and brand perceptions. Two, the unboxing experience sets the tone for the user's relationship with the product and can be a determining factor in brand loyalty. Third, packaging and unboxing reflect social implications such as consumer values, environmental responsibility, and the experience economy. And yeah, that's it.
That's great. I mean, this is kind of eye-opening I mean, it's more like therapy for me because as I said, I'm one of those box hoarders and and it's not just Apple, it's just anything that's really primo technical stuff. And there's also, I mean, you kind of alluded to it online with people just selling the boxes, right, on eBay. But this has been, that's, I think, a new phenomenon. At least I hope. But what's not new is the inbox value adding, right? Where if you're going to
Yeah.
sell something in the box, new in the box, or used in the box with the box, it always increases value. This is true at toys. It has been for decades. It, now it occurs to me that the box being the package being around the thing that you're selling
Hmm.
brings that back to the original user experience, right? That's why it demands a higher premium when it's being resold, something used or old, vintage, whatever, what have you, is being resold. New with tags, old, like stuff that's like old stock but still has tags on it. That,
Yeah.
it's like it's
Authenticity,
yeah, like
yeah.
you're leaving with as a consumer or a re-consumer, you're leaving with the experience that otherwise you might have been deprived. So if I was going to
Hmm.
go, like an example in my world was where this might happen is if I wanted to get like I'm a child of the 80s, right? So I would want to get Transformers, like the original Transformers, like the really awesome ones.
Yeah.
That they don't really make them anymore. They're just not quite the same. And if I wanted to spend some cash, I would get one that was in the box or with the box that was relatively new. so
Oh
that
yeah,
I could relive that experience of being like a 6-year-old kid and
100%.
open. Oh my God, it's like an amazing talk about dopamine. That's more than nostalgia. That is a psychological experience. It's deeply psychological.
Yeah, I
So
would do the
I
same thing with Lego sets too. Like
oh,
stuff from the
definitely.
80s, 100%. I'm spending extra money
Yeah.
on that.
There, there's something about there's something about the 80s and 80s toys that I think hit different than say any other generation or but
Yeah.
so I have a question. You were I just want to circle back. You were talking about it's not just how the Apple boxes look or how the items look, it's how they feel. And you actually made the point that I had never thought about this before. It's how they behave, right? How they move together. Like they have like this satisfying suction and vacuum that appears when you try to, yeah, it's like that's different. And
Like you can't
it's
really open this fast, even if you wanted
yeah,
to. That's
it's
crazy
like
design, right?
it's crazy and it's so exact. And so my question is, it occurs to me that there's this narrative, and you also, along with that, you were talking about how Apple packages things in sequence, right? So you the most important stuff first, or the paperwork, right? Or and then like the accessories, and then maybe the item, and then maybe something else. So there's a sequencing which to me suggests a narrative, right? There's
hmm
like a psychological narrative arc that happens when you get the thing, unbox it, open it, finally turn it on, and get onboarded and everything. There's a whole series of it's like a narrative arc, right? Of like watching a movie, right? A
Yeah, for
personal one.
sure.
This is all kind of like points me into the realm of storytelling
hmm
and narrative. And I was wondering if you had to sum up what Apple's story is, having seen, having lived with Apple most of your life, as I have. What do you think the Apple's current packaging? What's their story? Like, how would you sum it up? Like, how would you describe it to somebody who'd never seen them before? What is Apple all about?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about it because I used to sell phones, so I do like
Oh,
unboxing like
yeah,
all the time, like 5, 10 a day, right? So I guess
sure.
the storytelling is kind of lost its meaning to me almost.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but like I guess like from like the surface level, you can tell that it's very sophisticated with the way they design their stuff. You can feel it in the quality. Um, you can assume that they are environmentally friendly because they use paper rather than single-use plastics.
yep,
And you can assume that they are a design-led company because,
yep.
oh, that's awkward. Oh, there we go. Designed in California.
Yep.
So why might someone want to mention that it was designed in California?
Very, very good question.
And it's very interesting to see that sure, it was designed in California, but it was manufactured somewhere else.
That's
So,
correct. Yeah. I think, but you think and I want to talk about that too, this sort of separation between the things we use as consumers and the people who make them, the labor that goes into making them. Um,
hmm
and I think designed in California is the perfect entree to that. But before I do that, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's sophisticated and designed, right? That's Apple's story.
hmm
Everything is it has intention. Like nothing is an accident. And this the other, I mean, they say I think they probably say it themselves best. Like it just works. Like that's the Apple, byline. So like
Yeah,
there's nothing else going on. It's just the thing that you're buying, and it's doing the thing that you are think it's going to do, right?
hmm
And for the most part, that's been overall the truth in my experience with Apple products, and I think the packaging communicates this. But
for
I
sure.
do I do want to talk about this. So you don't know this about me. Well, I mean, I told you offline, but I more often than I probably should, I like wade into Marxism on these lectures, but I really do feel that like this particular talk about unboxing and fetishizing objects and consumer goods is like it's low hanging fruit when it comes to Marx. That he came up
hmm
with this concept called commodity fetishism. it was in Das Kapital. It refers to the capitalist tendency in capitalist societies to attribute inherent value and sometimes like a mystical value, right,
Mm-hmm.
to commodities or consumer goods. That certainly happens with Apple products, right, among others, that they're somehow magical, right? This
Yeah.
occurs when the relationship between us as consumers and the labor involved in producing these commodities is kind of obscured and perhaps separated, fogged, if you will. And this leads to a perception that products have inherent value, independent of where they came from or their labor origins, right? And this is
Mm-hmm.
why, for example, Apple can charge $3,500 for a pair of VR goggles at launch. Like that's without tax, and
Yeah.
it's. I was finding out, and this is I was never going to really buy them, but then I was looking at that week when they launched, which was just like a couple of weeks ago, that the Apple Care, like their extended warranty, is like
Yeah.
$500, right? And if you don't have that, it's thousands of dollars to replace some of the bigger the components, right? And they're, it's not just that. All of Apple's products, dongles, right? All the adapters that they sell, 30, $40. We'll
Mm-hmm.
pay it. We will pay it because we believe it has that value. So in other words, commodity fetishism is it's this idea that we often view products as having value in and of themselves, and we're not really aware of where that value is derived from. It's certainly not the labor required to produce them. This is the labor theory of value, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
again another Marx thing, that it's the workers, us, the people that make stuff, um, that actually create this value, right? And that's where the value is. Instead of seeing the human labor behind the creation of goods, we tend to focus just on the materials, right? And that's where,
Mm-hmm.
and the brand associations. And that's why I think like this packaging, the quality of the packaging, how it behaves, how it moves, and then the inevitable unboxing videos that occur,
Yeah.
all they just further distort the relationship between the maker and the buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think this is really the place to finally talk about Marxist theories in a way that really kind of makes sense, right? So
Yeah.
you said yourself that packaging design plays a pretty critical role in enhancing the perceived value of products. That's what we think it's worth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that it does so by creating like visually beautiful packaging that conveys a sense of quality. You actually use the word, or we use the word exclusivity, like, or exclusion, like it's exclusive, right? And
Yeah.
then just desirability. And I think what I'm noticing is that unboxing videos kind of contribute to this illusion, right? By creating this experience where just the act of unveiling it, taking it out, becomes an event in and of itself. It's like its own media event just to see the thing.
Yeah.
That's why people are making, in order just to see the Vision Pro, for example, without buying it, you have to make an appointment, you have to get fitted, and you only get a half an hour. I think that's pretty telling. It's all about exclusion and elevating this perceived value. I mean, I assume the thing is amazing. I haven't tried it myself,
Well, it looks
but
cool.
it looks amazing. It looks. I mean, it will, as it evolves, as this technology evolves, it will change us for better or for worse.
Oh
Which
yeah,
is
for sure.
another thing I kind of want to talk about, but I don't know if we'll have time. But the takeaway is that both package design and unboxing videos have this ability to perpetuate this myth of inherent value, right? They focus on physical appearance, branding, packaging of goods, fostering this perception that value is inherent rather than socially constructed through labor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, Marx himself warned that this fetishism would lead to what he called alienation,
Mm-hmm.
right? In other words, we're, as consumers, we're more and more divorced from the people making our stuff. And in the case of Apple products, as you yourself said, they say we're designed in California. It's emblazoned on all of their packaging for a very good reason. And I think it's to counter this idea, that the reality, right, that they are not made by people we're ever going to meet, right? Most Apple products are made in like the Foxconn facility in Shenzhen or somewhere in Asia. We're never going to
Mm-hmm.
meet those people that made it. They're making, dollars a day to make what they're making. They
Yeah.
work 18-hour days in terrible conditions. We're never going to meet them. We're never going to see their factories. And I personally, my opinion is that Americans don't want to meet them, right? And I don't know about Canadians. I just mean Westerners in general, but
Yeah.
We don't want it. We don't want the veil to be lifted. We love the perception over the reality, right? Lifting the veil would be horrifying. But so all that said, and it was a big spiel, but could you maybe just eh, think about alternative design solutions for packaging that would, and just product design in general, that would prioritize or highlight the role in labor in
Yeah.
determining the value of consumer goods? Is there a way to rethink the idea of packaging where the people who made it are actually first and foremost on the minds of the people looking at these things?
Uh-huh. Um, I have a few things on my notes. Maybe I should just like read it out here.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess
Yeah,
essentially
we,
like this would lead us to the question of what is the true cost of everything?
yeah, the
So
true
like to
cost. There we
yeah,
go.
to like dig really deep into the true cost of things, we have to look at it from like the exchange value perspective and the perceived value perspective.
Yeah,
So I guess like when we're de determining the true value of a commodity, the value is driven by um what's the word, social relation that is
yes,
associated with the commodity. So a
yeah,
common indicator of this, with the value of goods in terms of price and desirability, um, is kind of like how is price determined and how is desirability determined.
hmm,
So then, we take a step back. The price we pay for commodities, often they don't reflect the true costs,
mm-mm,
such as labor and materials, etc. This discrepancy kind of points to the duality inherent in supply and demand. So for all this to work, you need to have one person that is the supply and the other person
mm-hmm,
that it creates the demand.
yeah,
So from a design perspective, transparency could be used as a cornerstone for branding.
yeah,
So I guess alternative design solutions is to aim for transparency, right? So
yeah,
this approach would empower consumers to make choices, help them consider the ripple effects of their purchases, um, and help them understand the actual costs incurred in producing the commodities. So
yeah,
addressing this is pretty challenging in our capitalistic world.
yeah,
Companies typically set prices as the highest point the market will bear, right? Um, this is a very tough question to answer because as agents of capitalism, you and I both know companies would charge as much as consumers are willing to pay. Like if Apple charges $5,000 for an iPhone, we
yeah,
will very likely pay for it.
yep, yep.
So,
That's
um,
tough.
it's very tough. So then,
I
yeah.
Yeah. Could Sorry, continue.
Oh, so like I was thinking like another direction that we could take this with is, you know, to stand out, we have to do the opposite of what the industry is doing.
Hmm.
You stand out from the crowd, that would definitely create some sort of novelty effect. And
Yeah,
then by proxy, you bring awareness to issues such as modern day consumerism, unfair working conditions. So like I did some research yesterday on, I guess, medicine in the States.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a whole ball of wax. Yeah,
Yeah, but I like what Mark Cuban did with his cost plus drugs,
yeah,
where it's very transparent in what he does. He tells you the price that he pays for the drugs, and then, the standard 15% markup.
yeah,
So even with all this, the transparency, it brings awareness to the issue of price gouging in medicine, and it helps create, a good public image for the company. Because it's actually just cheaper, right?
yeah. It kind of reminds me of something when the first time when I was a teenager. I used to live in Rochester, New York, which is just about 3 hours from Toronto.
Hmm.
So we used to go to Canada a lot. And I remember this is the 90s, and on cigarette packs in Canada, they had, I don't know if this is still the case, they had pictures of lungs, like black
Oh,
lungs. Is this
yeah.
still okay? So this
Yeah.
is anti-packaging at its, and it's so 90s, right? It's like the anti, the ad busting, culture jamming, anti-capitalist movement. But my understanding when I saw this, I'm like, that's disgusting. I wasn't a smoker. I've never been a smoker, but I'm thinking, that's disgusting. Like, why would they do that? Why would a cigarette company willingly put those pictures on the packages? And my understanding is that the Canadian government, by law, in it's a law, they have to, right?
Yeah, they
It
enforce it like quite heavily on it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's I think, and there's something similar shortly thereafter. Big Tobacco suffered a huge lawsuit in the States too, where they now have to pay a certain amount of their profits towards anti-smoking campaigns, and the Truce campaign, et cetera, came out of this. It's a
Yeah.
huge, I mean, legally speaking, it was a watershed moment in the fight against big corporations and advertising and false advertising, right?
Yeah,
But
for sure.
here's what I'm thinking. Could something like this, like what we're talking about, transparency in product design and packaging design, like in with the cigarettes in Canada, do you see value in policy design that does this, that helps enforce this by law? Like corporations need to enter a market, businesses need to enter a market legally in order to sell these things. Shouldn't part of the contract they have with us, the consumers, be to be transparent by law? How do you feel about that?
Like you're meaning like the government steps in, they kind of mandate companies to have like kind of these transparency labels on the packaging. Is that what you
Yeah, I
mean?
mean they already do, like with food. They in the U.S. they have. I mean this might be similar in Canada. There's nutrition labels, right, that
Oh
list
yeah.
everything that's in them, ingredients. That's all by law. That's a legal thing that wasn't always the case. In fact, I think when I was a kid it wasn't the case, but now
Mm,
it has to be the case. And there's USDA, which is our
organic
they
stuff.
yeah, or yeah, they
Yeah.
make well they make recommendations about how many vitamins you should have, how many calories you should eat per day, or how much protein you need, how much salt you try to avoid, really.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it's all listed on the packages of these things. So if you get like a pack of ramen out of like off the shelf, you can see like, oh, that's pretty much all the sodium I can eat in a whole day. And
Yeah.
then it educates us, and they can't sell it without these things on it.
Mm.
I mean, is this something that would be so disruptive to say Apple packaging, right? Could you envision something with Apple packaging or big tech, expensive luxury goods, being clear about, for example, Louis Vuitton, who makes their purses, where does
Yeah.
their leather come from, right? Uh,
Uh-huh.
really real luxury goods. Is this something that people would revolt against, or do you think it might be a good idea? Like, how do you feel about this?
Well, I mean, in the ideal perfect world, I think it is a good idea for the government to step in, to regulate these things, to provide full transparency and to allow consumers to understand that, their purchasing decisions can lead to like a ripple effect, and then
Yeah,
how their manufacturers of those commodities on the other end, they're suffering, right?
yeah,
But like given that we are in like a capitalistic society,
yeah,
um, I don't see how like governments would lean towards doing something like that because if companies don't profit, then the GDP doesn't go up. So
right.
that would take away kind of jobs within the country.
Interesting. Okay.
Um, but yeah, like I do think if we are in a perfect world, that would be a good way to bring awareness to the issues and to
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a comment here from Dorothy. She says during the Depression, flour companies added colorful prints onto flour sacks, knowing that consumers would use these sacks to make clothes. So like here's like a really interesting and not a very invasive way to like a pretty welcoming way to encourage the reuse of packaging, for
Mm,
example. And I think that's a great idea, right? This is like a great it's sort of like a way to message very similar to the way that Apple convinces us not to throw away our packages. This
yeah.
is like an interesting way to convince people to, you know, reuse and upcycle these things, which I find really fascinating.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, that I actually didn't know
Um,
about that. That's really cool.
I don't think I knew about it either. Although the thing about the depression, right, is that it was a horrible shock in the financial system all around the world, but certainly in the
hmm
United States. And the thing about shocks, which one your fellow Canadian Naomi Klein writes about, is that they're perfect. They set the stage, like massive shocks in socioeconomic structures, world governments, et cetera, set
hmm
the stage for like sometimes really beautiful and amazing ideas, right? That it accelerates them, but sometimes it leaves the ground ripe for horrible ideas and you know more control over our lives and
Yeah.
oligarchies and stuff. They spring up after disasters
Mm,
like the economic, like 2008 economic crisis or the pandemic, for example,
yeah.
that we're just sort of still kind of coming out of. So I feel like, and this is, during the Great Depression, the U.S. enacted the New Deal, which was at the time, you know, castigated as like a massive socialist movement, right?
Hmm.
which it was fairly, but not everyone was into it for that reason, and people are now still trying to take away the social programs started in the back in the depression. One other question here: could Apple work with designers to suggest how to repurpose and reuse Apple boxes, perhaps in like creative ways? In other words, could they do the flower company route in some
Uh,
way? What do you
yeah,
think about that?
I think, I mean, I don't think I probably won't come directly from Apple, but it'll probably
Uh-huh.
come from more like
Like a third
grassroots
party.
approaches. Yeah, like YouTubers.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I remember seeing people make hats out of, those IKEA bags.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that
Well,
could be a possible avenue, right?
yeah, no, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
One other question here. We don't have a lot of time,
Hmm.
but yeah, this is what I was gonna. So okay, so I'll cut to the chase. Guy Debord, he started the Situationist International movement. He wrote Society and the Spectacle, and he would have called the unboxing movement part of the spectacle, right?
Hmm.
Um, he argued that the story of human society is essentially a decline of being into having and then having into merely appearing. This is I'm quoting him, by the way.
Okay.
He referred to this as the historical moment at which the commodity completes its colonization of social life. And you mentioned social media in your early on when you're talking about unboxing, and particularly video sharing sites like YouTube
Hmm.
that really made unboxing the phenomenon it is. It's like the sine qua non of unboxing. You have to have some kind of video sharing that everybody can have access to, right?
Hmm.
Which didn't exist until like 2004. So,
Yeah.
but given this idea of the colonization of social life by commodities that Guy Debord warns us about, wouldn't you say that like unboxing or just package fetishizing is just kind of inevitable, no matter what?
Hmm. Uh, Short answer, yes.
Yeah.
So, like, I remember reading something about this critique in Marshall McLuhan's declaration
Yep. Sure.
called was it the medium is the message or something like that?
Massage, yeah, yeah,
Massage? I don't
yeah. It's a
know.
purposeful yeah, but that
Oh,
is
well,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
awkward. Well, in the case of like unboxing videos and commodity fetishism, the medium, which is, YouTube, social media, it kind of
Yeah,
transforms the private experience of opening a product into like a public spectacle. So it acts as a catalyst to, the colonization of social life by commodities. Um,
yeah,
at the same time, um, that also turns consumers into the quote unquote product.
right.
So social media platforms, they facilitate and amplify the visibility of brands and products, making
Yeah,
the act of consuming performative act for an audience. Like, like you mentioned, logo whoring, sneaker collecting.
right. Yep.
Um, Interactions are increasingly mediated through consumption and display of commodities, social status, identity, relationships. They're kind of all like negotiated through these mediated experiences. Kind of
Yeah,
reinforces the idea that we appear to, you know, possess what defines us.
yeah,
Um, so like we see examples of this in like all like almost all industries. You see like I don't know, fast fashion, sneakers, technology, luxury brand obsessions, and like
mm,
even I kind of want to say NFTs,
yep,
like digital collectibles. And so then
yeah,
like the harsh truth is, yeah, unboxing and packaging fetishizing it's definitely inevitable and
yeah,
something that I think consumers should be aware of when they go to make purchases.
Okay. This is great, Elvis. That's all the time we have. I feel like we could sit here and talk another hour
Yeah.
about this, and we didn't even get into John Baudrillard and the
Yeah.
simulacrum, but maybe next time. But anyway, thank you so much, Elvis. This has been awesome.
Thanks,
Um,
David.
it was great talking to you, and thank you everybody for coming to the lecture. Just a quick note: next week's lecture and all the successive ones are going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern time. This is the one because of me; it's my fault. It was at 3 today, but the all the others will be at 1. So I really hope to see everybody there next time. Elvis, you're also, of course, welcome to pop in if you're around
For
on the
sure.
West Coast. All right, thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, David.
Yeah, thank you. Talk to you later.